Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are here for the first time, welcome. I am the Emerging Educator, and this is True Story Tuesday, where I talk about some of the adventures I've had in teaching and how it has led to me becoming a better educator and ultimately a better person. So, this week and last week, many teachers have started going back to school. My school district, Chicago Public Schools, does not start until August 28th for the teachers and September 5th with the students. So I still have a little bit more of a break. However, I'm very excited because I'm going into a new classroom with new administrators and a new team of teachers. Taking that into consideration, I decided that this week for True Story Tuesday, I wanted to talk about setting up for the beginning of the school year. Specifically, how much time teachers set up for the beginning of the school year. This will be my third time setting up a classroom, and I love it. I love doing the bulletin boards. I love arranging the desks. I love setting up stations, setting up computer centers, just everything. I love it so much. However, the past couple years, I've taken a lot of time to do that. And as still a new teacher, and even veteran teachers will tell you, many times you end up putting so much time and effort into being a teacher. With me, I've started school at 6:30 in the morning, and I would stay till 8 or 9 o'clock when the maintenance staff would kick me out. And then I'd go home and grade papers, or go home and work on a lesson, or go home and make copies of things, and it was all very exhausting. And so with all of that in mind, I wanted to talk about finding ways to take some you time, or in my case, me time, to avoid burnout. Burnout is a very, very real thing, and if you let it, it will make you quickly have feelings of dread and remorse and sadness towards your job and in your classroom and your school environment in general. I mean, to be completely honest, guys, there were days where I was only getting 2.5 to 3 hours of sleep a night, and ultimately, I think that's what led to me feeling burnt out and feeling tired and resenting the fact that I was putting so much time and effort into my room and into trying to be the best teacher that I could, that I was definitely neglecting me. I was neglecting my health. I was neglecting my nutrition. I was just neglecting my basic needs as a person. And that's when I realized that I was just doing too much. I was trying too hard, and that I couldn't go on much longer doing that. Now, I'm not saying don't take time for setting up your classroom, and don't take time for making your classroom the best place it can be, and don't work hard. On the contrary, I think it's so important what we do and how we affect students, but we also have to be able to take time for ourselves and do what makes us happy, to be able to have that difference between home life and personal life and our work life, because if not, one could easily overtake the other. So at this point, you might be watching this video and thinking, wow, she's got a point. We definitely need to find time to focus on ourselves, to be the best teachers we can be. But you don't know where to start. Let me tell you where I started. So first things first, I stopped arriving at work at 6:30. That was just way too early. In order for that to happen, I had to be up at 5, and it really just took away from my sleep, and it took away from me being able to eat a balanced breakfast. And so I stopped that right away. I got there early because we didn't have to be there until 7:45. So I would get there about 7:15, which was early enough for me to still have time to get set up in the morning, but still have time for myself at home and my morning routine. Another thing I started doing was giving myself options. So I would stay till about 5:30, maybe even 6 o'clock. But if I did stay that late, I would not take anything home with me. I would allow myself to take the rest of the evening off. Or if I took things home, I wouldn't stay so late. So instead of staying at school and getting things done and leaving at 5 or 6, I would take things home and I would leave when it was time for us to go at 3:30, but I would take some papers to grade, or I would take some things that needed to be cut out, or I would take a list of things I needed to buy at the grocery store for school. And so it was giving me balance. I was still getting work done, so I still felt like I was being productive, but I was also giving myself an opportunity to have some me time at the end of the day to unwind and just reflect on the day and how tomorrow could be better. Another thing I did was to prioritize myself. So that stack of papers will still be there in the morning. And this was really hard for me to do because I tend to work until I finish it. So if I have a stack of papers that needs to be graded, I will stay and get it graded. I hate leaving it half done. Even though I will come back to it later, I hate doing things halfway. And so this one was tricky for me. I did have to be able to, for lack of a better term, cut myself off and to say, okay, if you get half of this done, you can do the second half tomorrow. It does not all need to be done in one day. Maybe sometimes I felt like I was giving myself pressure to get it all done in one day, but it didn't always have to be all completed today. Some of it could still be done tomorrow. And along those lines, being able to prioritize what comes first. So what is the most important thing, the most urgent thing that needs to get done, and giving myself the opportunity to pace myself and get the rest of the things done as needed. And finally, I had to really start thinking of myself in a more positive aspect. So when I was staying late, it was because I was nervous that if I didn't get certain things done that same day, I would be some sort of a bad teacher, or I would be somehow letting my students down or letting my team down. And I had to cut myself some slack, and I had to remind myself that I'm only human. There's only so much one person can do in a day. And I had to remind myself that I can't sacrifice myself to get everything done. I have to give myself that time away, time to recharge my batteries, and time to be rejuvenated when I come back. This also meant being able to remind myself that since I'm only human, I do make mistakes. It is okay to make mistakes as a new teacher or even a veteran teacher. No one is perfect, and making mistakes just gives us opportunities to learn more about ourselves and how to become better. So I had to start focusing on me internally and why I felt the need to constantly push myself to the limit just to get things done. And so I started putting more focus on myself and meditating and reminding myself the positive affirmations, things that I needed to remind myself of so that I can remember that I am capable and I am a good teacher and I do have the best interests of my students at heart. Once I was able to do that, I was able to give myself a little bit more slack and to allow myself to take it a little bit easier and to give myself the me time that I needed to be able to recharge my batteries. Now, I'm not saying that those of you that spend countless hours and tons of time every day outside of school focusing on your classroom and constantly pushing yourself to be better are wrong. On the contrary, I hope that someday I can get to that point as well. But I can say that from my past 3 years of teaching, I've tried very hard to do that, and I've gone too far over the edge, and it's made me very tired, and it's made me feel that burnout. I remember there was one day where I even told a friend of mine, now I get why half of the people who go into teaching end up leaving the field within 5 years. It's because they go so hard and they go so forward with what they're doing that they tend to burn themselves out, and it makes them very resentful of their career and why they decided to go into teaching. It also seems like that might be something that would make them lose passion for teaching and lose sight of why they became a teacher in the first place. So I just had to realize that although I would love to get there, I'm not there yet, and I still have to find an opportunity to give myself balance, because if I'm not at my personal best, if I'm less than 100% myself, I won't be able to fully support my students. I won't be my best self to help them and to advocate for them. And so now it's time for the moral of the story. The moral of the story is that yes, we are teachers, and yes, we are educating tomorrow's leaders, and we are investing in the future. However, we are only human. We do deserve me time as well. And we have to find ways to remain balanced and centered so that way we can do our best to continue educating tomorrow's leaders. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope to see you next week.